Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the king of podcasts radio network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
So Jeff Jarrett, 10 years ago made that claim that we were in a pro wrestling boom when he was bringing up Global Force Wrestling, which that went by the wayside. But hey, he was about 10 years too early on that statement. But I'm going to make the argument right now that we are in a pro wrestling boom. Regardless of where we are in terms of where WWE is doing right now, they're still making bonkers money right now. Broadcast deals galore. They got the setup with TKO Group Holdings. Listen, they're on top. Is their programming a little bit lacking? The normal everyday product? Are they relying too much on some main star power like we talked about last week? Yes, but that's okay. We're going to tread on. We're not going to just continue to hamper on it. Listen, they're going to have a pretty good Survivor Series. We know they're going to set up something for that. We're going to things are going to be set up for Crown Jewel coming up now. They're setting up matches. They're going to Crown Jewel, Survivor Series. Those are big pay-per-views. They have to fill them. They got to do something big for them, and they have plans for them. So great. They're looking at what they're going to do. Among that, there might be some other things they might be doing right now that I'm not necessarily, not really in love with right now in terms of what they've been doing with their programming. That's fine. They're going to work themselves out, and we're always going to get something about matches being set up. Listen. Right away, you see Logan Paul win his match over Dylan Dennis, and all of a sudden, he goes on after the match and challenges Rey Mysterio Jr. for the United States title. Woo! Look at that. Great. So you got that going on. And then you have like the other things that go on where you're like, okay, you're setting up matches where, Gunther and Tommaso Ciampa are going to take on each other, or you decide to go and take Cody and Jay away from the titles, give them back to Judgment Day so they got all the titles once again. Something about they wanted to just recorrect that. I don't know why, but they decided to do that. Okay. So you get all that happening, and now there's good and bad with what's going on in programming. Listen, great to see Roman Reigns back. Him and LA Knight, not interested. Not interested. I don't see, and this is the thing where it's that stigma. If they're not in WWE, it doesn't matter. They're irrelevant unless they do it in WWE. That is the mentality of the bubble fans out here. Listen, you know who you are, and you know I'm right. I hear enough people on Wrestle Talk, enough people on Twitter, read enough people on Twitter, and I look at enough to know what the thought process is. It's really a broken record. It's been over and over again. So let's see LA Knight go out there with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, better promo, better wrestler, better everything. And you know what? I will not be surprised if the booking goes where LA Knight is just a flash in the pan. He comes in here, built up as a main event for a pay-per-view, only to get shut down in pretty quick fashion. If the match is 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and out, peace out, yeah. I expect that. He's gotten some wins here and there, okay. Once he started getting hot, all right. There is nothing this company can do to build up LA Knight to the level where he's going to be anything more than The Miz, anything more than, hovering near the main event, but really just upper mid-card. And he's a good person to have out there because the crowd likes him. And he responds well to the crowd. Okay. But that's all you're getting out of him. That's all you can get from him. There's no upside because he's 40 years old. He's not there's not a prime of his career. He doesn't have like another 5-10 years in front of him. Much like the other wrestlers that WWE is trying to push. Okay. That's how it always works. You get these stars that have some kind of an upside, but they've already been in the system for 5 years, and they got another 5 or 10 years before we really see them at their peak. And the ones that are going to get a chance to have that peak are the ones that have been in the developmental system, that have been a part of the whole system the whole time, and have only wrestled WWE style. If you're going to tell me I'm wrong, you're delusional. Because you are. If you want to give Roman Reigns another cadaver to go ahead and, carve apart, go right ahead. LA Knight, there you go. Good. But they don't cry back at me when they go ahead and bury him and he loses big and then he doesn't get that push anymore. He's not going to get his heat back and get into the rematch. We're not getting a program with LA Knight and Roman Reigns. That's not happening either. I don't care how much John Cena can hold his hand up and try to make him look like something more. And as for Jade Cargill, the people out here, it's the commentary about Jade Cargill, they're booking her so good right now. What? If you're deciding to go ahead and put her up against Charlotte Flair right away, listen, they put her on all the shows. We don't know where shows she's going to be on, when she's going to wrestle, nothing. And by the way, none of the sass, none of the attitude that Jade Cargill had in AEW, they're not even letting her do that. We don't even know what her identity is. She's got her name, she has her look, and she's got her wrestling skills. What is the part that WWE is going to do? What are they going to do with them? With her? What do you expect? I will say it over and over, and I said this a few weeks ago when Jade Cargill made the move, okay? She was built great in AEW. So for AEW's credit, WWE, you're welcome. You might want to shit on Tony Khan and his team over there in Jacksonville, but they did a pretty good job of building up Jade Cargill. A very good job. The potential for her to be main eventer, a champion pretty quickly, yeah, that's no problem right there. You could give her the Bianca Belair push, basically, and she will do just fine. You could give her, the way you pushed, I don't know, Liv Morgan or Io Sky. You could give her that kind of push. Somewhere, somehow, you're going to push her as a face, but then you want to confront her, which is just a tease with her and Charlotte. They just can't go right to that match. And we just can't let Jade go right out there and just get thrown into the fire into a main event match when this company really hasn't given her that much exposure. These little, glimpses of her right now where we only heard like a couple of words from her at all, that's it. But the thing is that most of your audience, they're not like Vince Russo acolytes here, okay? They're not the ones that are in on the secret. They're in on the inside baseball. No. Your average, run-of-the-mill, lowest common denominator, WWE fan does not know who Jade Cargill is. They see her and they say, wow, she's muscular. She's strong. Wow, she's beautiful. She's got this presence about her. She lights up a room. I'd like to see her wrestle. I want to see her work. I remember when she came in, they were just only at the part of building that character, but they did the Goldberg part, remember? She's basically what the female Goldberg was. Unbeatable. And then she had the one loss in a particular fashion that was she won her match, a long match for the Defender title. And then it was something where they got Chris Statlander to come in. Jade Cargill decided to go ahead and take a second opponent, and she lost. Wasn't the right decision for her at the time. And she had no one to back her up, no baddies or no Marvelous Mark Sterling, nothing like that out there. Oh, one thing I will tell you is that she didn't need Mark Sterling. Jade Cargill could hold her own on the mic. Not even a question there. From the beginning, from the jump. And then Jade Cargill comes in here. Listen, she looks like $1 million. She looks like a star. That's not even a question. I'm broken record. I said this about a month and a half ago. She is, again, a star when you look at her. Not even a question. You can market her. You could put her on billboards. You could put her on whatever you want. You can have her doing talk shows. She looks like it. She has the it factor. Without a shadow of a doubt. Learn to love it. She's that bitch. Right? She doesn't get to say that anymore. She's got to say something else. I don't even know what they're going to have her do. But it's going to be a bit of a sanitized version of Jade Cargill that we got from AEW. And that's the part. The decision for her to go over here, we've already made the point. We made the case. We made the argument. Yes, she needed to be over here. No question about that. But now we're at this point, and what do you do next? These are some of the things that WWE is doing right now that's good. And I give them a lot of credit for that. Okay, you're trying to build some new stars. You're trying to get some other stars out there, but, the ones, it's how you book them. Now, Triple H can bring up people as long as he wants and try to do something with them. Indy Hartwell and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa and Bronson Reed, right? But it's all in how you bring them up. It's all in how you present them, how you book them. They just can't be winning matches. Listen, and if Triple H thinks that the whole idea that he's going to be doing is just get more in-ring action, and that's fine for the diehards, you still got to build in a bigger audience. And, you want to build the matches, you want to build a little bit of hype towards matches per week. Yeah, great. But you also got the same roster of stars that were buried, and we're just putting a mold of dancing partners together for a long program doing the same matches. Because in some cases, yeah, we're getting good matches. Don't get me wrong. Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura. Yeah, it's a great TV match. A great TV match. Is that something you can build up toward the pay-per-view? No. What do you build for a pay-per-view? Okay, Shinsuke Nakamura, they put him out there, program with Seth Rollins, it's done. So now Seth and Drew for Crown Royal, right? Or Crown Jewel. And what, the idea of Drew McIntyre turning heel? Okay, they'll make him a slow heel turn? All right. Whatever. Okay. There's not much more you can do with Drew McIntyre now anyway, where it is. They never let him have the belt. And they put him in this streak where he's less than... He's a little bit inferior right now because he's not anywhere where he should be. And he's been away from injury. But they bring him back, and now it's okay, well, let's see if we can do something with him where we're going to start giving a little bit of the signs of the heel turn. And then they'll turn him. Okay. I mean, you do need to build some heels over there on the Raw side. But, I mean, is anybody else going to be built up to be a title holder? The question is, you want to build some main event heels. How about heels or faces that are main eventers that are going to eventually be title holders? What's the deal about making them heels or faces if they're not holding a belt? Because we've made it such an important thing to hold a belt. It's only a few different acts that are able to go ahead and have matches in the ring on pay-per-view. And it doesn't matter if there's a belt on the line or not. Okay? Logan Paul, John Cena, Bad Bunny. There's other Becky Lynch. There are the stars, the mainstays that have been title holders for a long time. And then you say, okay, bring them out there. Who could be in that main event? Who could garner that main event? Women's or men's? Is Drew McIntyre being built up to become a heel world heavyweight champion? Will the belt be taken off of Seth Rollins? Right? Judgment Day, if they didn't have belts, how relevant would they be? How big of a faction would they be? But they're holding all those belts right now. And then you've also had stars that have been up at that top echelon of title holders, but they're not going to put them back up there again, or they're not going to make them title holders, right? Singles title holders. Either the Usos, Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens. Are we seeing any of them getting back up to the World Heavyweight Championship? No. Nobody's going to take that Universal title, the undisputed Universal title, off of Roman Reigns. The only person that has been built that could have a chance to go back after him again is Cody. For those that want to have the dream that LA Knight might have a feasible chance, well, you could bet your money you'll lose it. And I'll bet against it. I'll bet the short. And I'll probably be right. But you want to do what you want to do, that's okay. But that's the WWE thing right now. Are they making money? Oh, you hand over fist. They got their deals. They got SmackDown all set up. They're good to go right there. And they're building on and moving along to much more. Look, there's going to be some point where Raw moves to a different night. Endeavor or TKO is not worried about moving that right now. that WWE right now is flexible with its programming. There's plenty of interest in the programming rights to Raw and NXT, so we can wait and find out what they're going to actually do with it. But obviously, they'll have a deal somewhat in place, and we'll get the announcement of that. We already know SmackDown's leaving Fox for USA Network October 2024 for a new 5-year agreement. Great. Someone else is going to take it. And if it's not on Monday nights, that's fine. But the money's going to be piling in. Next year, they'll do Peacock, more money piling in. They're going to be just fine. But to get all that money coming in and to keep those pay-per-views as hot as they can, if they're going to have to keep pulling the trigger, okay, let's get Logan Paul in for another show. Let's get John Cena back. Can we call The Rock? Because they're going to try to do that again. And then you ask yourself at WrestleMania, how many people could Triple H really build up to make WrestleMania special to get some of those stars up there? Without having to go and call on the part-timers, without having to call on those that have really big names that will come back and do some work. Pat McAfee, right? You need to go ahead and keep that in mind. Let's see if they can actually do it. I hope so. Now, I want to get into a couple of other things when it comes to the boom itself. I have other organizations to talk about. The other thing is AEW itself. AEW and Ring of Honor collectively, they're just moving along. Have the ratings been perfect? No. But they're consistent enough. I think nobody's really paying attention to the fact that, okay, AEW didn't get the ratings that they wanted to last time around because of what happened. Okay, got it. Fine. Okay, so when people talk about the fact that we had what happened last week with the Tuesday Night War revisited one more time, right? And that was all done, right? Built up, big thing. They're going to get the ratings up for the show. Almost 900,000, or they had over 900,000 viewers for last week. And this week, it dropped. Actually, not big of a drop as I thought. It dropped under 800,000, but really wasn't that much of a drop. But you didn't have all that extra, like for people that couldn't stay around, okay? People to stay around for the next week to watch NXT, you might have been a little bit disappointed. Because when you had Asuka, John Cena, Paul Heyman, you know, Becky Lynch, all in some appearance or some way, shape, or form on that program. Well, this week, we get back to more of the developmental, right? The bada bing, bada boom battle royal. And Chase U winning. And then a live promo with Baron Corbin, Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams, Dijak, the champion, Ilya Dragunov. And then you had the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament with Jada Parker and Carmen Petrovich. And Braun Breaker, Robert Stone out there. Okay, that's what you had. It was your run-of-the-mill NXT show. So people stayed around because they got that big fat show that had Judgment Day all over it, right? All that. And so you built that up. And now let's see what happens next week when you have more of the same. Because you really build people up to go and watch NXT on Tuesday night to see what would happen. And when they just got this run-of-the-mill NXT, hey, they got a good number. They're up against Major League Baseball. Good for them. But, I mean, is that going to be enough? Are people going to stay around after that? I expect the number to drop. Okay? Because at the end of the day, you need to go and have that developmental talent back out there again. The normal run-of-the-mill NXT talent out there to go and work. Because you overshadowed them with all this talent last week. When WWE could not trust NXT and their talent to create one of those like premium live events they could have built up for AEW. They couldn't do that because they had to win. They had to make sure they won. They had to make sure they won, so they had to go and stack it up. Hot shot book NXT last week. And you had some layover. You had some people roll over to the next week. Fine. I don't know if they were going to expect anything else out of it. But if you decide to do that, keep in mind, let's see if those numbers stay up there. Because I don't expect it to stay around 800,000 like that. Unless they do something to keep people coming around and watching on a regular basis. They'll have to figure that out. So the raw ratings, I think, was 1.6 million viewers. So, like, they're holding it steady. That's fine. Let me just jump on the other parts. So like I said, AEW, they're set up. And, you know, numbers for their shows are doing just fine. The structure of their current setup of programs right now in terms of their feuds that are going on at the moment, the storylines, kind of hard to pinpoint which ones I like better. Of course, Timeless Tony Storm is just a winning gimmick to me. I love it right now. The little silent movies that she does where it's in picture, that's hilarious. It's good. I'm enjoying her a lot. Where are they going to go with her? Some people don't want to see her with Saraya and Ruby Soho. Fine. Sky Blue now getting, misted by Julia Hart. So is she going to start turning dark side and join House of Black, I guess? A brunette with a blonde in House of Black. I guess you could do that. And then you go along and we got Adam Cole dealing with Roderick Strong and all those segments. MGF dealing with Jay White while Adam Cole is gone. That's been a pretty good setup. The setup for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, that's cool. I like that. And then you have Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. And you got Nick Wayne and Darby Allin and Sting as part of all this. And Luchasaurus. And then you go ahead and set up the round to the Don Callis family. Dealing with Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega. Pretty hot stuff they got right now. I like it. I like it a lot. There's a lot going on right now. The show's doing pretty good. All those shows on AEW, I'm enjoying it. They're doing a pretty good job. And like I said, pay-per-views, they kill it. Consistently, very good pay-per-views. Never disappointed. Never disappointed on those. For me, the WWE has a bar. They need to reach a certain level for me to really get excited about it. Are they good pay-per-views like, Fastlane last 2 weeks ago? Yeah, it was fine. Like, I got no problem with it. We're not getting, bullshit pay-per-views. Not like before. I think they're building up matches and they're trying to build up pay-per-views as best as they can. The premium live events, they're fine. Could just be better. Could be a lot better. And so they got that, Ring of Honor, you get their pay-per-views. I don't get to catch the Honor Club. I'm not paying for it. But you see a little bit of that going on in other programs. That's nice. Now, how about the other organizations? Impact Wrestling. Well, Impact Wrestling's finally gotten themselves to a point where their programming is starting to get noticed once again. Access TV is now being a place for people to go, watch, and consistently 100,000 viewers. They're getting the audience that they used to get on Pop, which is something compared to what they were doing before. Something happened where their numbers are consistent again. And I'm happy for that. I'm happy they found themselves to do that. So, no question there. No knocking right there. They're doing it just fine. Okay, ever since, when you go back to what? Slammiversary. Or even before that. Like, if you're going throughout the whole year, it was Impact Wrestling, the Rebellion, right? The Rebellion show. Once they got past that, you see Trinity come on board. And let me tell you, big difference on this show. Going around 115 to 130,000. Might have had a couple of weeks where they were a little bit off, but like right now, consistency. Like at the moment, if you're looking at their programming, they might dip a little under 100,000 viewers a couple times, but like they've only dipped a couple times throughout the summer. Like if you want to just talk about like, let's say May 8th, all the way to current day, they have stayed well over 100,000 viewers. And they sometimes spike up. 153,000 at one point. I think that was that was after Slammiversary. 134,000. It was another show that peaked well, and they were doing this fine. It was pretty consistent. I give them credit on that. That's good. And now Bound for Glory comes up this weekend. And it looks like it's kick-ass. Stacked show. When you look at it, Alex Shelley, Josh Alexander, Impact World title match, Knockouts World title with Trinity and Mickie James, Chris Sabin and KENTA for the X Division title, Will Ospreay and Mike Bailey. That's a monster of a match right there. Monsters Ball, PCO, Rhino, Moose, Steve Maclin. Knockouts tag team titles, you got MK Ultras, Killer Kelly, Masha Slamovich against Tasha Steelz and Deonna Purrazzo teaming up. World Tag Team Champions, Rascals, Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz against ABC. And a Call Your Shot Gauntlet will be also running on this show. They've already sold out Cicero Stadium in Chicago. They're set. They already sold out before the show comes up. It sold out this week. Great for them. Great for them. Impact Wrestling's in a good place. Now, I can't say I really consistently watch the show. Like the TV show, it's a little bit, run of the mill, but like it's consistent. The matches are very good. When it comes to storylines, Impact isn't necessarily the major, big, intricate storylines like WWE does or AEW does in some cases. Impact Wrestling, they give you like the bread and butter. They give you the storylines. Pretty, a little bit basic, you could say. But simple feuds. You can definitely follow along. You get it, you enjoy it, and it's good. And did a pretty good job of building up this pay-per-view coming this weekend. Because Saturday night, 8 o'clock, I'm going to have to figure out how to watch that. Also got Collision to watch, right? And then Battle of the Belts 9. Man, there's a lot of stuff going on. So another Saturday night packed of wrestling. And I got an FAU game I got to go to. Another home game. 6 o'clocker. They're taking on UTSA. Pretty tough game. Have to see how that pans out. But I'm going to have to find a way to go and watch that wrestling show while hopefully trying to watch Collision and catch both of them out there if I get a chance. So yeah, that's another thing I got to go and worry about. Figure that out. The other story I got to make a point of now is this got announced this week, and this is a major story. I think people should really take a look at what's going on here. It's wonderful news. So Wrestling Observer are going to take their story. The National Wrestling Alliance, NWA. You're not going to get to see their shows finally on network TV. Yeah, the CW network of all places. So Billy Corgan said there was going to be, that the promotion was recently signed with a top 20 network. House of Wrestling says that both TV deals are with the CW. Official announcement is relatively coming soon. One of the two deals is the rights for NWA Powerrr. The other one is a reality-based TV series based on what happens behind the scenes of the promotion. NWA made some production upgrades after Hard Times, or should be after the 75th anniversary show. And entering a new era, production upgrades reportedly made in the anticipation of the company's new TV deals. And they did. CW. A better deal than what Ring of Honor had with Sinclair, to be honest. And so NWA are going to do their shows from Skyway Studios. They got that set up. They can make it how they want in the ring. Let's see how they do it when it comes to they don't have a crowd in the audience, right? We don't see a studio audience at the thing. Or they're going to have a studio audience now, yeah. And the idea from NWA is they're going to shoot the show like Impact Wrestling shoots their shows. And I remember going to Impact Wrestling, 2 Decembers ago? 2021 December, I think it was. And I remember going there and, they took care of 2 full episodes, but they also took care of BTI. They were kind of not fully stacked like the same way it was. Like they might have gone a little bit, they went a little bit out of order. Remember that on how they did things, but they set it up and, they have a pretty good system in play. Impact Wrestling has their own setup. And they're also looking to do production upgrades because now they're setting up right now and they're getting, the venues are starting to build up a little bit bigger, right? They're trying to go and show more of the audience out there. So when they did Cicero Stadium, when they did Windsor, Ontario, or they did the nightclub, right? Like you're doing more of that part, which is great. Right, it was at St. Clair College for its anniversary. Rebel Complex, that's the one in Ontario. Right. So like they set things up, like they're getting a better audience out there for their shows, which is great, and it looks better. And their setup is good. Like they got a good thing going on right now. They're good at building stars, the stars that can get to a certain level. And, everything they're doing right now is relevant. There's nothing that's lacking on that show. It's pretty consistent, pretty good talent on Impact Wrestling, which has always been a good thing about them. And we heard about them. We were going to do more in terms of getting more talent on board and what they could do. But people are going to Access TV. They know where they can find it. It's available in a lot of places for cable, and people can watch it. I just wish they would stream it. Because honestly, that is why I struggle to go and watch on a regular basis watching Impact Wrestling, because I have to catch it on Access TV. Or I have to go somewhere else to go find it. And it's not necessarily that easy for me to go ahead and go out of my way to go and look for it. If it was on streaming, it would be much easier. Just saying. I wish it was. I mean, I'm not watching on YouTube. You could go that route, but I'm not going to. But it's a thought process. Anyway, back to NWA. Powerrr. You got to set up. CW is cleared all markets. Now, CW is obviously going through a different route in terms of what the network's going to go through. Because if you realize, the CW network is not the CW network that was owned by Viacom and set up as they were. If you didn't know, they're going through a lot of changes anyway. They're not doing a lot of scripted programming as they once did. They're owned by Nexstar Media Group. And the plan is they were going to do a lot more when it comes to the programming was going to be different. And what they decided they're going to do. Like there's programming going on board to CW. They're like putting more sports programming on there, by the way. So the CW network right now, they're doing a lot more when it comes to putting on more sports content. So sports content like NWA makes sense for the CW to go and do that. And the other thing too is that CW is also going to be doing things where they're taking on programming when it comes to a group called FilmRise, right? They did a deal now to get, video on demand, free ad-supported streaming TV rights. So CW has a free streaming service and it spans over 1,500 hours of content. And so they have programming over there that they can run. But the CW streaming is going to be available for NWA. Great. Now, the programming they have on there is not necessarily like over the top, like incredible, but they're at least doing something about it. There's more to it. If you look at the CW right now, they're all on regular channels that they have, but they're doing a lot when it comes to sports. So some of the things they're doing right now is they have the LIV Golf, Live Golf, the competitor to PGA. And then they have CW Sports across the board. So they have a sports division over there now in this case. And so they'll have programming that will be scheduled for people to watch and catch it all there. So far, it's golf. But there's more that's going to be happening. They're going to obviously add more. And they have other shows right now they're adding. Like they have other TV shows. They're just changing it up a little bit. They have some original programming, but not, they changed out some of the programming that they had. No more of all the setup with Riverdale or Arrow or, all these other DC things. So the DCU stuff, it's all off of CW. They took it all away. They did put a couple of new series in here, and they're changing things up. Like it's still a viable network, and they're doing programming. I don't know if it's necessarily so much where they're doing programming that's like specifically for a younger audience, but they're kind of going like the route of like, okay, we're going to do what UPN used to do, what CW used to do, what WB used to do. We're just going to figure it out and put it all together. Along with Live Golf, they also have Inside NFL. They picked up that show. So there's a few things. NWA to be put in this lineup. I don't know what night they're going to put it on. But if they're putting it on here as part of their programming, great. I didn't know the NWA was going to get a chance to do this. But I'm glad they're going to. I'm really happy for them. Nothing but the best for them. Nothing but the best. And the one thing I think I also want to make mention of is MLW. MLW so far, I like what they're doing. They have had a lot of issues when it comes to trying to get their programming up somewhere. Like they've been pretty tough. I will admit they've been in a lot of places trying to get things done. But MLW Fusion's going on. They're continuing their show. They got it all set up. They have the pay-per-views now. They got Work with Fight TV. They got that set up now. Regular monthly pay-per-views. That's great. So they're working on it. They're doing what they can and see what they go along with, right? That's what they have to do. I mean, right now, they're working on things. Like they did have the show where they put a weekly show on with MLW Underground on Reels. I didn't catch it on that show. I tried to, but, at the start of the year, they had a struggle with that. And then that deal went aside. It was only for a limited series, it looks like. That's how they started off the year. But they didn't have the pay-per-views to kind of sustain the momentum. But right now, with these pay-per-views they have on a regular basis, they're building up every week. Week to week, they're building up the pay-per-views, and they're going that original route to get more out of it. So I think that's also very important for them. And they're important enough to get some pretty good stars to come on board and go work on the shows. Like for the pay-per-view this past month, Slaughterhouse I just had the other week, over the weekend. And you have Rocky Romero come in, and he works and becomes a double champion over there. Great for him. So Rocky Romero is currently the CMLL historic World Welterweight champion, and he's accompanied by Selena De La Renta, the impresaria. She's back, and they basically, as soon as she came back, she's now back in the mix where she is doing the faction, the Promociones Dorado is back, and now she and her faction holds all the belts. So Rocky Romero beats Akira to become World Middleweight Champion. And then on top of that, Second Gear Crew beat The Calling and the Chamber of Horrors match. Pretty gruesome in there. One called Manders, Falls Count Anywhere match with Ricky Shane Page, which continued even when the match wasn't done yet because it didn't have a winner yet. They didn't come back until later. And then throughout the night, Domi Exo gets a Phantom Challenger, and Selena De La Renta brings out Janae Kai. And Janae Kai comes in and defeats Domi Exo. So new women's featherweight champion. And then Minoru Suzuki, Jacob Fatu, drag out fight, pretty stiff. Minoru Suzuki wins. Pile driver to win the match. And so you got a couple belts right now in the faction of Promociones Dorado. You got to deal with the fact that, Matt Cardona is still part of this. The fact that they got Minoru Suzuki to come out and work this show. And for the fact that Davey Boy Smith Jr. unfortunately had issues where he had to have a procedure because he also has the same condition that Brock Lesnar has with the diverticulitis. So unfortunately, Davey Boy Smith Jr., less than a week before he's scheduled to go ahead and wrestle, Alex came for the World Heavyweight title. He has to go ahead and go to the hospital. But credit to Court Bauer, he got a very, very good replacement in bringing back a former MLW World Heavyweight Champion and Filthy Tom Lawler, with Mr. St. Laurent bringing him out to the ring. It's impressive. had a good match. And Kane is able to take down Lawler in a single leg crab and wins the match and retains. Great stuff. And the whole idea was that actually Alex Kane fought out of Tom Lawler's triangle choke to win the match. Set up like that. And then Matt Cardona would confront Alex Kane after the match. And so most likely we'll see Cardona and Kane at MLW Fightland next month. I think it's November 18th. That's all I like. Like all that right there. A lot of momentum right now across the board for content, for wrestling. And to think that NWA now, they're definitely talking about the fact that the YouTube channel is not going to be where they're going to put their programming on, because unfortunately for Billy Corgan, you know, YouTube and content creators in general are not making as much money as they once were with advertising and the kind of ad dollars that we're getting before off of putting their content up there. They're not paying as much. So either which way, this deal with CW works out well for them. Broadcast TV. Broadcast TV. Impact Wrestling doesn't have that. AEW doesn't have that. That's pretty good. Now, what do you think about it? Most likely, by next year, 2024, end of 2024, NWA will be the only wrestling product on broadcast TV. Do you realize that? It's pretty impressive, and I think of a time where wrestling was so dominant. You know, 80s, even in the 90s, you still had programming that was on, you know, whatever. I was like, okay, but yeah, broadcast TV. You're only going to have one broadcast network that's going to be carrying anything wrestling at the end of next year, and it's the National Wrestling Alliance. Which, by the way, National Wrestling Alliance, more credit to Billy Corgan. Let's see what they do in terms of building upon the territory system. We talked about that last week. ECW's group got brought in, so now they're a part of this. So they just need more talent coming into play. Let's see what they're going to do with it. Wonderful. Love all that. And I want to just a couple of things where it was brought about where Celia Di Narenta decided to go ahead and make her return back because there was an interview that was done with Jeremy Lambert and Joel Pearl of the Fightfuls in the Weeds podcast. And so she made a lot of points about what happened to her. Because I was always curious, like, did something go wrong with Court Bauer and her? No. Apparently in MLW, she got a full scholarship to go to Full Sail University, Orlando. She didn't want to juggle everything as a full-time student. So the last 2 years, she went to school full-time. She's graduating in November, and the timing was right. She's going to continue to do her master's and do both. And then her recent return, she said she was really excited to come back. Very different, not what she expected, but it looks different from everything that she saw. Changed for the better. Court Bauer's done a really good job filtering through who really is not supposed to be there, who actually is contributing to the roster. Yeah, and Court Bauer does do that. I do give him credit. There is, you know, for the level of talent he brings in, he's getting the most out of a lot of them. And so good for her to see her come back here. She's been a welcome of fresh air. I love the woman. I love what she does on that show. It's good to see her back. Really is. So NXT next week, we'll have, you know, Halloween Havoc, and they'll do it over 2 nights. Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria for the NXT Women's title. Tony D'Angelo, Channing Stacks defend the NXT Tag Team titles over against Chase Hughes, Andre Chase, and Duke Hudson. I'm still surprised that Duke Hudson is still part of this group because Duke Hudson was kind of like being, you know, a shitbag, and I thought he was going to go ahead and disrupt the whole thing. Nope. Roxanne Perez and Kiana James in the Devil's Playground match. Mr. Stone versus Braun Breaker. We're going to get Robert Stone in ring? Really? Ariana Grace, Kalani Jordan, women's breakout semifinal match. Lights out match with Blair Davenport and Gigi Dolan. Carmen Petrovic, Lola Vice, and a breakout tournament semifinal match. And the in-ring debut. Oh, what a name. The former Brian Pillman Jr., now called Lexus King. Lexus King. Let that resonate for a little bit. I don't like that name at all. When it comes to WWE, Currently, they already have a couple matches set up for next week. Becky Lynch and Indy Hartwell for the NXT Women's title. Okay. And Sami Zayn versus Drew McIntyre. And Logan Paul set to go ahead and also appear next week. That's a setup for that. And then looking at Crown Jewel and the setup for WWE for that, so far, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, World Heavyweight title, and a Fatal 5-Way for the Women's World title. Rhea Ripley will defend against Nia Jax, Raquel Rodriguez, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark. Yeah, pretty good. I mean, if you need to go in and like work out a few things, okay. Nia Jax or Shayna Baszler possibly winning, maybe. Raquel Rodriguez? No, not necessarily. No. So far, I already know that AEW will have Full Gear coming up Saturday, November 18th. So yeah, Fightland and oh yeah, it is Fightland against Full Gear. Man, just stacking these pay-per-views up on Saturdays. MJF versus Jay White for the world title is set up so far for that pay-per-view. 4 weeks from now. Let me quickly go through and do a quick rundown of Bound for Glory, what I think of the matches are. My previews and predictions, they're not necessarily set in stone, but hey, you know what? Pretty much I'll stick with it. I'll take ABC to take back the World Tag Team titles off the Rascals. I'll take MK Ultra to retain the Knockouts Tag Team titles. I will take... Ooh, this is going to be tough. I'm going to take Steve Maclin over PCO, Rhino, and Moose. We know PCO's out the door. His contract is about to be up. Will Ospreay, Mike Bailey. I'm going to take Will Ospreay. Chris Sabin versus KENTA. I'll take KENTA. Trinity, Mickie James. That's going to be a tough decision. But I think they could definitely go back to Mickie James trying to go back for that last ride and get back her title that she lost, due to injury. So I can see Mickie James taking that back, and I think they're going to take it off of Trinity. That's what I guess we're going to do. And I still say Josh Alexander over Alex Shelley for the Impact World title. That's what I look at for this weekend. And I'm going to do my best to go and watch all this wrestling on Saturday and put together a post show that night. I will do my best. It's going to be tough. But I got football and I got other things to watch. It's just so much going on. Makes it hard to do these pay-per-views on the weekends unless it's unopposed. But during football season, very difficult. Very, very difficult. So let me get back to talking about Raw. We'll talk about what the WWE's been doing right now in terms of programming. We'll get back to that. And we'll do a little AEW as well. I don't mind doing that. Okay, so with Raw, the setup they have right now with, again, actually the average was 1.483 million viewers. They were getting buried by ABC and ESPN's Monday Night Football. Almost 20 million viewers for that game. And then they had Major League Baseball, 3.7 million viewers. They were just going to hurt trying to keep everybody watching. But they tried. Best they could. So the setup right now in Raw, they had Cody and Jay. They took the belts off of them. That was the setup for the end of the night. So Judgment Day is back on board again. Bronson Reed being thrown to Gunther. Ugh. I'm not big on the Bronson right now, what they're doing with him at the moment. Just not. And then also set up Falls Count Anywhere match. Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura. That's fine. Rhea Ripley, Shayna Baszler, which is already setting up for the Fatal 5-Way later on. Next month, the Crown Jewel. In between matches, sure, they're good matches. I mean, there's no problem with those. But like I said, there's just not much to go with it. And they have everything set up with Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn, and dealing with the bloodline issues and Jey Uso and all that stuff. And then you had Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler go to a DQ. Jade Cargill with a cameo appearance. Gunther wins over Bronson Reed. Pretty simple. But they're just keeping it in ring. Pretty simple. Nothing over the top. They're just moving on with their own deal. That's it. Like the TV show is just going to be just a run of the mill. Now that he's back on board and doing creative, let's see what they're going to do more with the programming over there. I'm not necessarily impressed. It's like, I don't catch all that's happening on Raw or SmackDown, and I don't have a problem if I miss it. I don't miss too much by doing it. Isn't that amazing? But it's true. SmackDown, interesting now. Adam Pierce is solely the general manager of Raw, and Nick Aldis now general manager of SmackDown. The National Treasure. Well, I'm glad he's got to work. I'm glad he's doing something over here. That's nice. That's cool. I mean, he's a good promo cutter. I don't mind him in this role, I guess. I'd still like to see if he still wrestles, because he's still, he could definitely still got in there and wrestle, but he's not. Not the one that you want to use him for. So Roman Reigns dealing with LA Knight, kind of puts him in his place. Now it's fine. You got Pretty Deadly and Brawling Brutes after the whole deal with Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, Paul Heyman, John Cena, and LA Knight. That whole segment, you go over to Pretty Deadly and Brawling Brutes, pass. Bayley and Zelina Vega, they set up that. Things are set up for Charlotte Flair to take on Io Sky for the Women's Championship. There's just not much on the TV product for WWE to really get me invested, to sit through 2 hours of it. I'm going to go watch the clips on YouTube, but I am not catching myself sitting down and putting it on the background. SmackDown, much easier, but Monday Night Raw, no. And Wednesday night's already a good night because there's not much, except for baseball or maybe an occasional MLB playoff game right now, or basketball, NBA, preseason. But at the moment, Wednesday night's a good night, so I can go and watch. I can catch a good chunk of wrestling. So AEW is on a good night for me. And Saturday night, I still catch it more or less. I might miss it sometimes. But football is very important. So I'm watching college football, especially if FE is playing. And I'll still catch the other games, if it's either Miami or FSU or whatever. I'm still catching all those too. But, don't get me wrong. They're building up the pay-per-views, but am I going to sit around and watch all these other matches of stars that I've seen out there for a long time that got buried when Vince had them? So Triple H can only do so much to try to rehabilitate them, but the stigma on these folks are what it is. And Triple H just needs to understand the fact that as long as he has this roster as it is, it's still going to be that he has to keep things under the WWE style. The sports entertainment, build up with storylines, detail them, make them soap opera style. You got to do that. That's what the people expect. This audience has already been trained to do that. You're not going to change them to go and go the NXT Black and White 2019 route. No, not going to happen. You're trying to set it up over right now on NXT, taking out the rainbow and putting it back to gold, but it's not enough. Not yet anyway. We're going to wrap it up. That's the show for tonight. Thank you for listening to another Wrestling podcast, as you always do. KingofPodcasts.com. That's where you find everything on the program. And so thankful for all of you to go and check out the show each and every week. I'm always putting up clips, so you always want to catch a little bit of a preview of what the show's been. If you didn't catch it right away, you're waiting to go and listen to it on the download. Then look for the clips, next day. I'll put them up on all the social media. On X, formerly Twitter, now X, Facebook, Instagram, Trends, LinkedIn, I think might even do that. And all that stuff. You'll find it at KingofPodcasts.com. Check out Brown for Glory this weekend. I'll do my best to do a post show. Come back for the Wrestling podcast because wrestling needs us.